Hello everyone, I'm Aso. I generally talk about game design in gacha game I play, but the story is one of my, for the lack of a better term, more interested in topic. I had a phase of, I want to be a novel writer when I grew up when I was a kid, you know? All interest die hard, I suppose. Also, there will be a spoiler for 2.0 to 2.2 story. If you haven't finished it, you have been warned. After I finish 2.2 story, I have something to say about the story, but I can't put in a coherent word to convey what I really feel about the story, and I really don't want to be viewed as the killjoy guy. So I'm putting off this video, and not to mention, a lot of people really like this story, and some might take what I want to say as I'm attacking them personally. But after I got into a rather heated discussion regarding 2.2 story online, I finally crystallized my thought on the story and can put it nicely into a video. You can say, dude, you just got one guide and make this long ass rant. That's very petty, and you would be right. I'm a very petty person, but I'm still glad I got into that discussion since I got to make a video out of it. Me being a petty a-hole aside, I want to briefly talk about what prevents me from enjoying Meijo's story and where my negativity comes from. It all starts with the accursed 1.0 story. I had the most displeasure of reading through any story in gacha games, and I think I have read through some questionable story. I'm not saying you can't like or enjoy Meijo 1.0 story. If you already like the story since 1.0, you are going to love it even more in 2.2. As hated as it is, it has something good going on with it. Dreamless is a really well-made boss for a climactic fight. My reasoning for not enjoying 1.0 story stems from 1. Excessive use of exposition dump, 2. Really weird pacing, and 3. Characters. Now, to be fair to the writer, as I already said in my Wuthering Waves review, exposition dump isn't necessarily a bad thing, and I can at least understand why they chose to do this. It's a new world, you have to explain a lot of stuff to the players. The weird pacing is what worsened the exposition-heavy storytelling for me. One moment you are learning about the new concept of the world, that the next moment might throw you another new concept on you immediately, or a heavy story beat at you, leaving some player, like my dumbass, scratching their heads, and the fact that there is no glossary archive to help player understanding the setting make things even worse. 先輩、あれをフルゲームズがやりました。Wait, what? When? 2.3 生放送に発表されました。Well, if it isn't a consequence of my own procrastination. As weird as it is going to sound, the pacing is also what alleviates the pain of going through 1.0 story. Because it's really fast. Like, you are watching a movie compilation version of a 55 episode anime, and a skip button also exists, so I can get over the story relatively fast and get on with the hitting stuff. But my biggest issue with 1.0 story is the characters. Besides Mrs. Mary and Mr. Gary, every single character felt like they could be replaced with a nameless NPC and the story will still play out the same. With the exception of Kongshi, Sanhua, Shangli, Scarfarova, and Jian, this guy to a certain extent. This, for me, okay? I repeat, for me, stem from everyone constantly glazing these NFs coupled with the lack of character agency within the story, except those characters I mentioned, because those characters at least have some observable personal agency going on with them. After 1.1 onward, the story is constantly improving, especially in terms of characters aspect. We got a much smaller cast which lets the writer better focus on the plot and characters exploration/development. Although the 1.4 adventure walks is really funny and cringy for me. And negativity aside, I want to talk about the best Wuthering Waves story for me, 2.0 story. To say it is the biggest leap in the right direction would be an understatement for me. Everything I complained about was either fixed or did it far better than every patch that came before. For the first time ever, I get to see these NF need to be bailed out. I was fucking ecstatic. Excited even. I thought, okay, now they are an character that can solve every problem in the plot. Rant is really funny and charismatic, appropriate for his role in the setting. Roshia is very cute. Phoebe is very squishable. Then come my most anticipated character, Sunny. Oh my god, she's so goddamn hot! Please kick my ass, Sunny! ออกเลยแล้วกลับมาก่อน Okay. One thing I really like about 2.0 characters is not every character immediately glaze Rover to high heaven or seemingly will spread their legs or cheeks for Rover. Especially for Sandy, her characterization of "I'm here for the work, get the bag and go home" after every character seemingly want a piece of Rover is so refreshing. And every single character that is a playable character in 2.0 has their own motivation and agency to be in the story, and they serve the purpose perfectly. Carola is the head of Montelli, the opposition of the order that runs the city, or will have a lot of influence on the city. Brad and Rosia want to participate in Carnevale. Sarni just want to get the bag. Phoebe is there to be squishable. Phoebe is there to remind everyone there is way more shady stuff going on within the order, by contrasting her naivety and attitude with the order shady action. And the villain? Holy shit, Farova is actually a pretty decent villain. Granted, it's not a high bar to pass. Consider Scar went, "Nah, fuck it, we ball. I'd win," and immediately got thrown into a jail. But everyone loves a competent villain, and she, without a doubt, is one. I'm going to elaborate more on this point when the time is right, but I'm gonna be honest, it's not that much to elaborate it on. But for now, let's put a pin on this. That is how to say the story is completely perfect. One very notable thing about 2.0 story is, god damn, it's long! Around 6 hours. It could be 7 hours if you want to hyperanalyze the lore implication, but for me, the length of the quest or story isn't important as long as it is well paced and suitable for the content. A trashy fanservice anime can feel like an epic adventure if it paced well enough, and a well-written story can feel like you are going through a garbage dumpster looking for a small model kit part if it stretched above its limits. 2.0 story is, thankfully, mostly well-paced. The writer used the time really well. Within 6 hours, I think I got bored only one time. It's probably around going to the church for the first time, but whatever. What I want to say is, they brought up a new topic and spent a rather appropriate amount of time on that topic or plot point. Not too short, not too long. Okay, maybe a bit too long or too short, but overall acceptable. And the final act of 2.0 story? Oh my! Now that's a good fucking food. One of Meito's strongest points when it comes to storytelling is presentation for me. Is the 2.0 presentation as good as 2.3 Fudori fight? Not really, but it can stand as an equal or even takes the cakes if we factor the writing and all of this thanks to the setup being a stage play. Since one person can't do all the roles in the stage play, everyone is important. Behind the scenes crew are just as important as the actor on the stage, and when Farola really joined the stage play and takes the role of competent threat, then transform into Hecate and initiate the fight, that's the peak of Wuthering Waves storytelling. Well, storytelling and presentation to be precise. One problem with action game story is generally a lack of tension given how strong your playable characters are from both gameplay and narrative perspective. So when you easily beat the boss, but the cutscene show you it isn't an easy feat and require teamwork to successfully jump this boss, it can feel a little jarring. But Farola, well, Hecate in this case, is a little different because she is actually pretty damn challenging for anyone with average or below average skill. Yes, I have skill issue. I think I restart against her 2 or 3 times in the story. Coupled with the fact that Hologram Hecate, which is the souped-up version, is, in my opinion, the hardest hologram boss, and also the hologram boss of Hecate version have no specific or special hologram move, make the final cutscene hit so much harder. Rover still continues to be the star, but Farova is actually competent enough that Rover alone isn't enough to finish the job, making the assistance of other characters has a weight and actually means something. And the cutscene choreography seems to pay an homage to Final Fantasy VII Advent Children sequence, make me like it even more. 2.1 story isn't bad. I enjoy solving the mystery part of it, but I don't fully understand it. Sunny is very cool. I was hoping to see her in action, but oh well. Feed is very squishable as always, and she also has a potential for a decent character's arc at the end of the Deep Vault mystery, given the fact that the Order doesn't even try to hide their T-ism side anymore, and she would have died if the bomb went off. Overall, a very enjoyable interlude. 2.2 for me has the highest high and the rather lowest low. By the way, highest high doesn't refer to writing, but the rather lowest low definitely does. If I had to give a 2.2 story in a nutshell version, it'd be think of version 1.3 story with a better writing and presentation. If you like 1.3 story, okay, I'm sorry, I'm being too loud. If you like 1.3 story, you will have a much better time than me going through a 2.2 story. In no way, shape or form I'm saying or imply the story is bad. I simply don't like this style of writing and story. A bit of 1.3 rant, I don't like 1.3 for one reason. It makes these motherfuckers look and feel even more like Mary Sue and Carrie Sue that they are. Saying the world revolve around them isn't a bit of a stretch, as they are perfect beings that can do everything the plot needs them to do. After I finished the story, I hated the story. It takes my best friend to remind me to look at everything the story has to offer before I can calm down and say, oh yeah, there are some good things in the story too. Before I get to the point I don't like in 2.2, I'll talk about the good stuff I like to ease everyone in. Holy shit, Cantarella! Cantarella is a rather interesting character. She should have been a Raguna's Sentinel Resonator, but she gave all that power up because she doesn't believe in a predetermined destiny and wants to free every Physalia girl that has been subject to the same painful experience as her. And I didn't expect Physalia to be a royalist faction. With Gilberto's actions in 2.0, I was fully convinced Physalia is a part of antagonist faction, while they literally have no other role when it comes to antagonist faction actions. As presented in the main story, I fell for the red herring so hard, I wouldn't be able to get out if it was a pit. Although she say something on the line of, she has no qualm with poisoning or kill other people to achieve her goal, I wish the story would show this side of her more. I know she killed 2 people in her animated trailer, but because there is no instance where the writer showed this in the game, or well, in the main story, it feels like a cheap bait and switch. But that's a nitpick. Overall, I like Cantarella, but not enough to make me break my sunny funds for her. Now, let's move on to the star of this story, Kathy. She is really adorable, and the mystery surrounding her, good lord, I have never been more invested in mystery that I have zero understanding about it. The constant hint on the... I'm sorry. I'll be a little more quieter next time. The constant hint of the Blessed Maiden story is a bit off, quote unquote, throughout 2.0 and 2.1 paid off really well in this story. The thought of maybe one of them is a resonator for Trinodian and the other is for Sentinel is a great misdirection, but admittedly, this mostly has to do with my lack of understanding about major world building, but I honestly thought, wow, it'd be so cool if the Trinodian can have resonator like the Sentinel. But that's not the point. The point is, I like these two, well, 3, more than Shorekeeper, just because they don't feel like a bunch of damsels in distress only waiting someone to bail them out of their stupid action or their shitty circumstances that they can do nothing to influence that circumstances. And the best part is, their plan actually works. All they need is someone who met the condition to execute the final stage of their plan, and that's great since both of them are narratively important. Without them, it is impossible. That's good. I like it. We saw their struggle and what they have been through. It makes the climatic fight have a lot of weight, as the fight supposed to be the final fight to finally get rid of Leviathan at the cost of Kathy of Futuri's life. And the fight against Futurus? My god! Kuro exceeded my expectation in terms of presentation department. The cutscene choreography is great. Probably the best choreographed fight they have ever done. And the 3-element rover section? Woo! Yeah, baby! That's what I've been waiting for! As much as it is a discounted Dante, it's a fine concept executed really well. Okay, discounted something generally have a negative connotation to it, but I assure you, dear viewer, that is not a diss, that's a price. In DMC5, Dante has more than 100 unique attack with their own input. Saying a discounted version of the greatest action game character would mean at the very least, it has a very competent and fun gameplay. And it is indeed very fun to play. A bit static due to highly limited moveset, but still very fun. With this implementation in the main story, I think Kuro might try to make each element as separate characters for players to use in various teams. For example, if you have Phoebe or Sunny, but you don't have Camellia, you have to choose your rover to either be Phoebe support or Sunny support, or Havoc damage dealer. Both is good, but you can only pick one. It feels bad knowing that, and now there is another element for rover, the opportunity cost for these characters starting to become an issue. That's all the thing I like, and now let's move on to the thing I don't like. As I mentioned, I do not like 1.3 story, and it mostly has to do with Mr. Gary and Mrs. Mary, and 2.2 story is pretty much 1.3 story for me, so you can guess where this is going. While 2.2 attempt to say Rover can do all of this alone, but to me it feels more like the writer is trying to say, see, we didn't write Rover to become the center of the universe or the whole world revolves around Rover, then actually wrote another story where every character is important like 2.0 story. Because in my opinion, they fail the one arguably most important principle. They fail to do show, don't tell. It all starts from the scene. Nothing is really bad or wrong with this scene. We've learned that Visalia is actually a royalist faction, forced to work with the Order under circumstances. Cantarella should have been the Sentinel Resonator, and Visalia trying to find someone else to resonate with the sword to enact the final stage of the plan. Those are the pretense to justify the subtext of Rover can do this alone, or at the very least, it doesn't have to be Rover, it just happened to be Rover. But for me, it just doesn't work for a couple of reasons. Starting with Visalia being royalist and actively looking for people to resonate with the sword, those came out of left field due to we as a player never saw any Visalia beside Gilberto action, which in itself acts as a red herring, and there is no mention about Visalia recruiting people into their family. Wait. Okay, I think I might have to take that back. If I remember correctly, it was mentioned as a throwaway line by Phoebe in 2.1, but throwaway line is still a tell, not show. You can argue it is a foreshadowing, but still, not a tell, it's not a show. And we have never seen or heard of anyone besides Cantarella being able to or have a potential to resonate with the sword in the current setting. Thus, this subtext means nothing to me, or if I had to put it nicer, this effectively means they are the same thing. Granted, trying to do a second awakening and become Sentinel Resonator is a potential life-ending action in the setting, so not everyone is willing to do that. I can at least see that as a reason, but still, I hate it. If the scenes play out a little bit like after Rover pulled out the sword, her butler contacted her and say, Miss Phoebe. I brought up her here because of my own bias, but it doesn't have to be her, it can be anyone. Is here per your invitation. And Cantarella say something along the line of, that meeting is unnecessary now. Please apologize and compensate her on my behalf. The sword has been pulled out. I would buy into it doesn't have to be Rover a bit more. Now, to top all of that, Rover has granted authority or power to split and merge to after they touch the sword, just because they are them, they are the admin, which will segue to my gripes with the final act of this story. Up until this point, it's pretty much a story of Kathy, Futuris, and Cantarella's struggle. It's their story stem from their agency and motivation. Rover just go along with their story to figure, or well, let's be honest here, revealed their story. And Katie Futuris supposed to die as a price to finally get rid of Leviathan. So when these motherfuckers step up and say, nah, I'ma do my own thing, and proceed to save the day, effortlessly, it feels so jarring. Just to be clear, I'm not saying Katie and Futuris should have died by the way. I like happy ending, but I also enjoy the process of getting to that happy ending. As I mentioned several times in this video, Kathy and Cantarella struggle to get to this point. But when it comes to these two roles of facing off against Futuris, it can't even be compared to that story. What does Futuris challenge her over? a suicidal plan that Rover is going to awesome their way through that and achieve happy ending anyway? Does this fight ideally opposing Rover's ideal? No. Does this fight mean something to Rover, or Rover has to overcome something to beat Futurists? No! These motherfuckers are already perfect, all-powerful, infallible. The only thing they really lack at this point is omniscience before they become a god with capital G. This motherfucker didn't even have to fight over Senno authority to actually use Senno power because they already had it on a platinum platter when they touched the sword. Where is the emotional ties? Where is the emotional stake for Rover? Just, they always care about everyone. Is it going to cut it as they are half self-insert, half actual character? Kathy is cute and adorable, but I'm not that invested in her struggle. Effectively rendered the emotional ties from me, the player side, null and void. I have never seen a climactic fight without any stake or tension done this good in my life. At this point, you probably are or might have brought up the scene where Rover needs to be bailed out by Kathy. However, I also have a problem with that scene. Not with the scene itself, okay, but with the setup. I find Abby's line of, "Are you sure we are doing this? I only have what I've eaten." I'm paraphrasing, of course, I can't remember the line. To be an incredibly weak setup for this payoff, for one particular reason. Role power is poorly defined. Let me ask you, the main story only player, from your understanding as the story presented, what is the limit of role power and ability? They can fly? Then what is the limit of their flying capability? How fast? How many people they can carry while flying? They had the scythe? Then what is the ability of said scythe? What can't this scythe cut? They can freeze or slow down time. I don't know if they can canonically freeze time or not, but I'm purely going off the gameplay. But what is the limit of freezing of the time? 10 seconds like the World or Star Platinum? What is the range of this freezing time? I mean, I have to broaden up the range because Jue exists and she can do localized time manipulation. What can't Abby eat? How long before he can fully digest something as big as Trinodian frequency? How tanky are these motherfuckers? How skilled they are relative to other characters in the setting? Who can best them in a pure combat skill contest? I can go on and on and on, but to get the point. Because their power is poorly defined, it feels like Rover can be as weak or as strong as the plot need them to be. One moment they can be the one-man plot device who can single-handedly take down the biggest threat in the plot and solve every problem, but needed to be bailed out of bad situation in the next plot or storyline, which could lead to inconsistency in writing the fight scene and lessen tension and stake in the process. Again, I'm not saying Kathy and Futurists should have died for the story to be better. I like happy ending, but I want that happy ending to come from every single character's struggle. If Rover actually had a well-written narrative struggle, this story would have been the true peak of Wuthering Waves story for me. But alas, it isn't. Also, I forgot to write about the purpose of Rover coming to Razila in the first place, which is fixing Abby. Somehow, after everything is fucking settled, Abby is all fixed up and all good now. What is happening? I don't understand. Please, if anyone understands this point, explain to me. Okay, I hope my rant doesn't offend you. If you really like 2.2 story, feel free to correct me or expand on what I might have missed. I hope you guys will get something out of this rant. That's it from me. Thank you so much for bearing with my rant until this point. I wish you guys to have a good night and a great day ahead of you. See you again in the next video. Bye bye!